Hey guys, look at all the gear we've got today. New stuff. We're no longer in austere August. Had a great shave yesterday, the 1st of September, with some, I stayed with the soap that I used in August so I could get a good weight on it, measurement. But everything else was kind of different, including this brush. And this is a wolf whiskers with the Manchuria knot from Oumo. Now, this is the same blade I used yesterday. It's got one use on it, feather blade. And we're going to step into one of three of the Maggard samples that I got last month. And this is the Maggard brand. And it's made by the same lady who does Through the Fire Fine Craft. That's the brand name. It's TTFTC or something like that. Through the Fire Fine Craft. And London Barbershop is the Maggard soap of today. Now, oh, and hey, there were folks in austere August that did the Midnight Stag Challenge just like I did it last year with a bunch of folks. And so in honor of them, I'm going to be whipping out the Midnight Stag aftershave. Now, here's the razor. This is from Fine Accoutrements. They came up with a new razor. I'm glad to say it looks different than a lot of the ones out there, but not totally different. And so we're kind of going to do an unboxing. Now, I contacted Mr. Fine himself, the contact address on their website, and I told him who I was, and he said that he provides a money-back guarantee on his products. So if I wanted to order the razor, pay for it normally, and if I didn't like it, I could send it back to him, no charge. Then he would refund me my money. But he said also, since he knew that I had a channel and things like that, he would send me one for evaluation, and if I like it, I will buy it. And then if I don't, I'll just send it right back to him. So here we go. Let's put it together. And I'm going to show you. Now, I don't know how his is going to come to retail people who buy it. Maybe this way, maybe not. I got a feeling all the pieces will come in these really cool little baggies. And if you can read it, it tells you the weight of each component, the material. This is a 316 grade stainless steel. And it even tells you the threading, like on the top cap and stuff. So, Fine Accoutrements. This piece is the base plate. And the safety bar here kind of looks like the one from Fatip, the closed comb from Fatip that has a similar look. It's quite thin, it's very light. At first I thought, is this the weight here, this doesn't really feel like much, but that's just because it's very lithe, it's very thin. It doesn't feel cheap at all. The edges feel pretty good. Nothing's damaging me or scratching me or anything like that. The edges here on this safety bar part are not, you're not feeling edges a lot, but they could be rounded off just a hair more, but I'm not really worried about that at all. Besides, if it was a $300 razor, I would expect them to be rounded off. And then the top cap looks like this. And see, it tells you the 316 steel. It tells you the M508 is the threading. Isn't that cool that they even give you that kind of information? And like the base plate, the top cap here, very thin, feels very light. It almost made me think it was of some non-steel metal, The finish on it, the visual look is terrific. The corners here, they feel precision machined. They could scratch you if you took it and you bored down really hard, but nobody's going to do that. It looks, I'm sorry, I wish my camera would make it so that I could bring stuff up to the front and have it focus, but it just doesn't do that very well. So let us put the feather blade in the cap, and then we will put the handle on. So this is a stainless steel razor. I have used Fine's Marvel razor before, and it's a Zamac razor, so it's a lot cheaper. So here's the feather blade. I'll go ahead and put it on. This is the first time I have put a blade in this razor, and the tabs do come out. I like that. Lets me be able to handle the blade safely. And then here is the stainless steel handle. I normally, with these new kind of products, I like to let other people try them out. And then when maybe they discover it's not a good match for them and they want to sell it on the different used markets, then I'll pick it up for a good savings. But to be honest, Fine Accoutrements, I'm such a huge fan of their soaps that I thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and jump in with this guy. Now here is the handle, kind of basic, kind of industrial, not much going on, kind of a traditional in a way. It does seem to be, I don't know if the drilling here goes a long way in, or if this is a ferrule that's pushed in, but it does seem like the bulk of the weight is over here. The knurling here is definitely catching a little bit, but I think it's probably going to be perfect when you're dealing with a wet, slippery razor to hold in those conditions. It does look a little bit short for my hands, but I've got big hands. All right, so let's pick up the head. Pretty good precision fit there. It feels good as you're screwing it in, not like a Wolfman, but that's okay. It doesn't cost as much as the Wolfman. All right, now I kind of have the benefit of doing this blind. I don't know the aggression level of this razor. I may have asked Mr. Fine about it, but I don't remember if I did ask, and I don't remember what his answer would have been. Looking at the exposure, it doesn't really look like it's got a lot of exposure, and so I'm happy about that. So let's just see what happens when we shave, and let's just check it to see if I'm going to unscrew it a little bit and see if I can move the blade. Okay, it is possible to move the blade around just a little, but not very much at all. So it looks like a situation where you don't really have to worry about blade alignment. But yeah, the knurling is really grabbing on my fingers, almost like a file, where if I had a piece of wood, I could, and wear down the wood. So that's how it looks. It does have these kind of classic pins coming down, and just kind of a common bar handle, almost like the Gillette New, the vintage Gillette New razor handles. There we go. Pull it back so it can focus right. It's got a nice gloss on it. The polish looks really good. The fit and finish around it looks, yeah, it does look nice. All right, we'll see how it shaves. Okay. Let me put some water on my face. Oh wait, before we do that, it's always better to handle these soap samples with dry hands as we press a 1/4 teaspoon of the soap down into the bowl. London Barbershop. Now I have used the Maggard house brand before. I believe I've used Northern Moss, and I've used Tobacco and Leather, and they were both performing very well, so I'm confident that we're going to experience the same nice performance there. London Barbershop. Let's see what kind of barbershop we get. Now this is probably the opposite of the Sterling Barbershop. The Sterling has kind of some spicy, darker tones to it. And this seems more bright and light. Even the color is almost white on this one. And it's a medium softness, definitely not a cream, but you know, it's not a hard soap, so it's right in the middle there, a crope. I'm just pushing down all the, kind of smearing it into a thin layer. It's soft enough where you know the brush is going to pick it all up. All right. Now I'm going to rinse my face, that kind of thing. Be right back. All right. I was kind of unhappy a little bit with this brush as I shake most of the water out. The first couple times I used it, because the tips just weren't all that soft. But I acknowledged that some badgers do soften up after some uses. Now, what's jumping up at me right now? Kind of some light florals, maybe a little bit of citrus. My initial impression is that it's a little bit on the feminine side. Now there's plenty of guys out there who say that scents are neither feminine nor masculine, and that is their opinion. But for me, there's definitely a subgroup of florals that lend themselves to a feminine connotation, in my opinion. This does kind of smell that way. It does have a little bit of powder to it as well, a freshness, you know, fresh and clean, and that's kind of what barbershops are supposed to convey. All right, let's start to add some water. I'm back in the land of not knowing how much water to add with just putting 1 teaspoon. With the MDC I used in August, I had dialed it in. It wasn't always exactly the same each time, but it was pretty close. If I had to stop right now and give an impression, I would say that the scent is a little too feminine for me. But let's see if it develops or changes during the shave, or if somehow I get used to it or notice something else in it that intrigues me. You know, sometimes scents do that. Yep, nice quality lather coming together. It's 1.5 teaspoons of water. 2. Quarter teaspoon, if you are uncertain, is a good idea, general measure when you're trying something out. There are a few soaps that need more, but you could probably count them on one hand or less. Most of them, 1/4 teaspoon is just right, and a lot of those, it's generous. Oh, there's some slickness that I've been missing with MDC. That feels good. That feels good. All right. Kind of using the scraps that are on my fingers to work into my face, start to break up some of those skin oils. Why don't we go ahead and use the lather that we have here. I had used the Maggard soaps mainly for the lather games, because Maggard usually has a day where you use their soap to get points, which is not a problem because it's a good quality soap. But I thought, you know what, let's try. I've ordered a lot of samples from Maggard over the last while, and I've never ordered a sample of their home brewed house brand soap. So that's today. That's what I did. It's feeling like it needs a little bit more water. Get rid of some of the excess off the sides because that's just about to fly off somewhere. Oh man, this lather feels terrific. The brush magically softened up. It doesn't feel anything like it did the first two uses. Very happy to report that. This bloom may actually be a little too big. I can put an O-ring on it and that'll kind of simulate if I were to sink it deeper, you know, into this socket. Yeah, I'm used to running MDC really dry, and so I definitely ran this one too dry. Look how all this is just, I mean, see, even Maggard house brand is a superior performer to MDC. Much less Sterling and those other guys. Yeah, it looks like I've watered it down. What did I do? I put in almost another teaspoon. Yeah, woo. I'm going to go ahead and put in, okay, so now we have 4 teaspoons in the lather. I will reconstitute that between passes here. Looks great. I'll take out the goatee stuff, not let it get wasted. All right, so here we go. And yes, my hands are slippery. Not have a problem with the grip. Matter of fact, let's slick them up a little bit here with some soap. Handle's not going anywhere. Matter of fact, that might be the perfect amount of knurling for a super secure grip. It doesn't feel too aggressive when it's in this kind of situation. There's just no danger of me dropping this razor, but it also doesn't feel too aggressive to me. Now, it's a little bit tricky sometimes if you have a razor you're trying out, a feather blade, at least if you have my kind of skin, doesn't always behave. If it's too aggressive, this could go badly, but let's just give it a shot and see what happens. Oh, it is just gliding through the hair. Normal 24 hours of growth here. Little bit of audio. So it seems like it's not meant to be ultra smooth. It's meant to have some efficiency to it. So a lot of guys are going to be happy about that. Nice. We could kind of know that it wasn't going to be super smooth because the base, the support underneath the edge of the blade is probably, 5 millimeters away, 5 or 6 millimeters away from the edge. And so it's not going to be like a Karve razor or a Wolfman or a Fatip or something like that. So it's going to give you a little bit of audio feedback. And a lot of people like that. And we'll rinse. Oh guys, the rinse just now was great. I've been missing that feel, that luxurious, creamy, slick feel. I've been missing it all August because MDC just doesn't have it. If I mix MDC to be that creamy, then it's so dry that my face is scrapey with the blade, that sort of thing. So this is terrific. Yeah, a little bit on the feminine side for me, but some of that powdery stuff and florals are starting to fade. I'm noticing some more the citrus, like lemony lime type citrus, are starting to be a little bit more dominant than they were in the beginning. So it's probably becoming less feminine now that those florals are fading. Not bad, you know. I probably wouldn't mind it if I had to shave with it. And I think London Barbershop might be a good name for it, because I think the European or British style of barbershop and sandalwood and those type of scents are a little bit more on the ladylike side. But I'm really happy with the lather here. One thing I'm glad about, the feather is behaving itself really well. Right now it is very smooth, because the bulk has been taken away on that first pass. And so right now with this cross grain, I do not feel like I'm going to cut myself at all. I feel like it really did a good job on that first pass. And that's good, because it means that it's not aggressive in the sense that you don't have to worry about finding the angle, because it's so aggressive. It has a wide tolerance. It seems to be maybe in that mid range, mid to slightly mild, maybe strong mid. And it just did such a good job shaving in the beginning that right now it's a little bit tricky to find some stubble to shave, because you've cut it really well already. I definitely like it better than the DE89 types of razors. Very common, very popular, and they're good. But I do like this one better. The feel is consistent, slightly scrapey, but only because it just doesn't have that blade support at the bottom. But it's very minimal in terms of that scrapey feeling. Most people are going to think it's very smooth, you know, and rightfully so. Oh man, the rinse. Face feels great. Hey, let's take a little inspection to see if perhaps the cut is so good on just 2 passes, if the third one's optional. That's really pretty good. I think with most jobs, you would not have a problem going into work at just a 2-pass shave with this razor. I will definitely put other blades through this razor. Feather is kind of in a small group of blades, maybe with Kai and those that are just kind of at a different level of sharpness, just a different kind. So they do behave differently sometimes, so it is good to bring in another one like the Astra, which is a good budget blade, but cuts so well in a lot of different razors. For me at least, member blades are subjective. Very, very subjective. All right, so this is probably, now right here, okay. So if you've had a razor that has done a good job of giving you a close cut, and now you're doing kind of a little touch-up pass to just do some refinements, take this as an opportunity to work on your angling, because with the hair being cut so close to the surface, in many cases, you're just not going to hear any cutting action. You're not going to feel it cut, because until you get that angle exactly right. So you can use this as kind of a teaching tool, so that you can get your angle just perfect. I do feel that I'm able to find the angle here very naturally. So that's good on their development part. Very nice. The center of gravity on the assembled razor is about right here. And for me, that's pretty well perfect. I'm enjoying the balance of the razor as I'm using it. Doesn't feel too heavy. It's not cumbersome. It's easy to be nimble with it and move it around. Looks like the feather, at least for me, is a very good match for this razor. Just kind of moving some suds around and doing little pickups. I don't feel any irritation or anything like that. I'm liking it so far. All right, guys. The powderiness is there with the soap. The floral has backed off a little bit. I'm getting those citrus notes, and the floral's back. Yeah, a little too floral for me, and that's common. There are a few people who are kind of like me and don't really appreciate the florals in a lot of their shaving soaps, but there are a lot of guys out there who would love this kind of thing. And not because they're effeminate guys. That's just, some guys just like this type of scent. Maybe because I think the history of wet shaving sometimes comes into play here. I think a lot of the older scents were floral and dainty because that was a sign of the aristocracy. You didn't want to smell like the things that I like to smell, like leather, musk, wood. Those were tradesmen, who were doing a job. And so the shaving and the soaps and those sorts of things were intended to bring in lavender and florals and clean powdery elements like that in the barbershop to show that you were sophisticated and that sort of thing. And so there is a heritage of ladylike soaps in wet shaving if you step back through time, and so some guys may have latched on to that, and so it's part of their experience, and that's fine with them for them to do that. But for me, I don't really see. I can see why people would appreciate it. I think it's a well put together scent if you like this style scent. Put it that way, but I don't. So basically I did a 3-pass shave. I do feel just a little bit of tenderness, just a little inkling, and it's not, I wouldn't even feel it in 5 minutes, even if I did absolutely nothing. That's how small it is. But we'll put that splash on and see what happens. I definitely got my 1/4 teaspoon's worth. There's another 2 or 3 passes of soap available here. So if I was a consistent user of this soap base, I would not need to maybe load the full 1/4 teaspoon. And here's the brush after we did a towel strop and a good rinse. With dense knots like this, always make sure you get in there. Give it plenty of time in the rinse water so you don't end up with soap in the core of the brush. And let's do that splash. Chiseled face, Midnight Stag. Notes of leather, gasoline, smoke, and wood. That is what I'm talking about. I missed doing this scent with my compadres this month. Just today they announced the 3 people who would win a special brush from Dogwood Handcrafts, because they used Midnight Stag all month. Some of them with the cologne with the EDT. They had to increase the number of sprays each week for a certain type of challenge. It was awesome. They had to include videos of them doing the spray. It was great. Oh man, I miss this scent. This is so good. Well, you know what? Somebody who did the Midnight Stag challenge offered to sell their stuff because they weren't going to do it anymore. and they did it just to be a part of the group and have fun, and then they jokingly, are saying, I can't wait to get rid of this stuff. Well, I bought some of that, and so I'm getting the soap and a aftershave sample, I believe, a couple of those, and then the cologne, the cologne. I'm looking forward to that, the EDT. I have the aftershave obviously already. I have the soap in the older formula. I think they bought it this year, so they may have bought it in the newer silk tallow formula, and I'm letting that. I didn't ask them about that because the price was nice, and I don't really care which one it is. And so I thought that I'll just let it be a surprise. If it's in silk tallow, it's even better because I've got a couple of tubs already of the OG formula, and the silk tallow will be even better because the performance is just terrific on that. Well, I've got the cooling effect of the menthol coming in. And it's not too much for me right now, and I'm cool with that. I've kind of gotten used to it a little bit, and this house is a little warmer than the way I used to keep my old house, and so I appreciate a little bit of cooling effect. Oh, this was a fine way to end a shave after a ladylike soap. All right. Those scents, those powdery and floral scents. I like smelling flowers, but I don't like smelling like flowers. They're just not for me. So 4 teaspoons of water, 1/4 teaspoon of soap, and that was plenty. Could definitely back off that a little bit. Great shave, and I'm enjoying the Midnight Stag right now. All right, so the Fine Accoutrements, the world's finest razor. Well, I don't guess I'd say that. And the anti-salesman in me, when somebody makes a hyperbole, an exaggerative ad content like that, it kind of instantly puts me on edge. Like, really, is this the world's finest razor? You think you've come up with it, So anyway, but we'll put that on hold. Since they've told us the threading is the metric, we know now that any of those aftermarket handles from WCS, Maggard, a lot of those are going to be able to fit this head. So that's nice. You've got some flexibility there. And I kind of like the design of the handle. It's simple. There's probably a couple of tweaks they could do to it to polish it off, but it's highly functional. It's balanced properly. It didn't feel small in my hands when I was using it. It may look a little small in my hands when I'm holding it, but it worked really well no matter what type of stroke. I like the fact that the knurling comes from the top down to here because that's my holding range. If I flip over to do kind of a pull stroke, see my grip area changes to a little bit farther down, and there's still knurling there to help me out. But normally it's kind of up in this area, and that's where the knurling is. My fingers aren't agitated like as if it would be too much knurling, so I think it's probably perfect. I mean, it could be rounded off just a hair perhaps, but it's not really an elegant looking razor in terms of the handle here. The cap is kind of nice looking. I enjoy that look to it, but it gave me a terrific shave. It's very friendly with the feather. I'd say the aggression is kind of in the mid-range. It was aggressive enough to easily knock down that first pass really, really well, but mild enough to where I just wasn't really in any danger of cutting myself or giving myself heavy irritation. This was my first time with it, and I didn't come anywhere near cutting myself. And I have a nice close shave. Really happy with that. There is a little spot right here that's red, but who knows why that's red. And that's right in a crease, so that could have been a little bit of a technique issue for me and not the razor itself. I felt very confident with it. I felt like I was controlling it well, that it wasn't getting away from me or anything like that. So in terms of function, I really like it. I like the look of the head, the handle, you know, it'll do, and it's got kind of a brutish attractiveness to it, to itself. And I like kind of the classic look with the posts coming down. So I like it. I like it. Now, where would I rate it in terms of money? Because I think it's on the, you know, I think it's over $100. All right, guys. I had some questions in my mind, and so I wanted to re-look up what the cost was. Fine is wanting to charge about $165 for this razor. At first I thought, man, that seems a little overpriced. But then I looked at the Karve razor, and it's basically the same price as the Karve razor when you convert the Canadian dollars down. When you look at the brass Karve is cheaper. But when you look at the stainless Karve, because this is also a stainless razor, then the Karve and the World's Finest here are pretty similar in price. Now, in looks, I would rate the Karve higher. In smoothness, I'd rate the Karve higher. I definitely have, and I'm talking about the brass, and it has the same dimensions and geometry as the stainless, and so I'm assuming that you can claim the two as equal. But I know that there are multiple base plates with the Karve that give me the same nice close results as I have here, but do it a little bit more comfortably and smoothly. So to me, the edge then would go to the Karve, and it also looks a little nicer. Now there are some guys out there who tried the Karve and didn't like it, and so since this is a kind of a different type approach at the same price point, this might match them very well. So I definitely say it might be worth a try for some folks, especially if maybe the Karve is a little too smooth. If you want more vocality out of your shave. I also noticed on his website how he has drop downs for the base plate, so there may be future plans to bring in other gaps in the base plate. And if he does that, that adds definite value to this razor as well, because the Karve also, of course, has the different base plates you can choose from to really customize your shave. And right now this one doesn't, but maybe it's coming. I don't know. So it doesn't beat the Karve for my own needs and in my own opinion. It doesn't beat the Fatip razors, which are drastically cheaper than this razor. But Fatip has some quality control issues sometimes, some blade alignment issues sometimes, and I don't believe you're going to get that at all with this World's Finest razor. But more comfortable shave and just as efficient is what I get from Fatip. I would rate the Timeless 95 as maybe a kind of a similar feel, but it's a more consistent feel, a smoother feel, just like the Karve is. So I would probably put it above this razor, but it may be more expensive, and so that might be a just comparison there. Kind of you get what you pay for. And then the Razor Rock Game Changer. Now that's the other way around. That's $100 less. Now sometimes they run into supply problems, but it's the 84 gap is the one I'm thinking of, not the 68. That doesn't work well for me with a lot of blades. But the 84 has nice support and smoothness with its gap and plate and shave, and I would rate it maybe a little nicer than this razor in comfort and perhaps attractiveness, and it's of course better in terms of cost by far. Now, a razor that I've tried lately that kind of had a similar feel to this one was the Tatara Nadachi, and I tried the Tatara Nadachi with a Nadachi plate and also with a Masamune plate, and I liked this feel better than that. It was smoother than that, and it was kinder to my face than that one. Now, I do plan on getting in the milder plates, and I'll be able to test those out too, but there's that. Now, the Tatara, of course, is more expensive than this one, And so that is a nice win for the world's finest. Of course, this is all based on my needs and my preferences. If you like a little bit more audio in that first pass, but it was very smooth and comfortable in the second one. I do think it's a nice mid-range razor. Like I said, it knocked down that longer growth with no problem. Since it did kind of get me right here, that proves that it's going after the hairs. But what proved the rest of my face being so comfortable was that it's doing it in a really good way. So I think it's riding a nice line between comfort and close cutting. I think it's a well-balanced razor in that respect. So those are just some examples of some other razors that might be comparable in terms of either cost or function, and that might help some people. I'm definitely going to put some more uses on this razor, put some more blades in it. We'll play around and see what we get. All right, I'm enjoying the Midnight Stag now. Let's clean up and just kind of bask in the glory of this fragrance. I also don't want to forget to say that I think this razor would be a really good fit for some people out there, and maybe a large number of people out there. Now, the good thing about it is that if you can tell by the website, got some nice pictures online there, whether you might like it aesthetically, whether you think it's a good looking razor. But I can tell you right now, in terms of the form and function, it works well. I like the way it works. And so then if you were thinking about buying it, at least in terms of what it does for my skin, I feel like it's a good buy, especially with the quality assurance of the kind of money back guarantee that Mr. Fine offers. Very nice. The photos on the website do a pretty good job, but I'll try to take some of my own and put a link in the description of this video just to maybe augment and help out with the user with viewing this nice little razor. I like the weight, I like the balance. All right, guys, there we go. My is fair and complete as a review as I can put together for the Fine Accoutrements World's Finest Safety Razor. World's Finest. I think it's a good razor. I would not have a problem, I don't think. Based on my first impression here, wouldn't have a problem if it was my only razor. It's enjoyable to use, it's well balanced. You know what? The knurling there gives me a little bit of a feeling like it could use just a hair of polish to it. But on the other hand, the timeless handles have a good bit of aggressive knurling as well. But that's just kind of the feeling I have there. Enjoying the Midnight Stag still around me here. I'm going to enjoy September and all the cool things we've got going. There's a tiny video that I will probably release either before or after this one to tell you some of the things that we've got down the pipe here in the next week or two or three here in September. All right, guys. Well, I think that'll do for now. You take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I hope there's been something good in this video for you. Good night.